When I decided to make a video series on how to make really nice updos for super long hair, I was very sure that I didn't want to get too much into the variations. I wanted to focus on the methods of putting your hair up instead of styling your long hair. My idea behind it was that I wanted to show what I actually do for my hair. Well, as you know, my hair is to my calves, so yeah, it's pretty long. And sort of demystify the kind of updos you can make for super long hair and show that it's often a lot easier than having short hair. So I wanted to show the methods and not so much variations, because with knowing a few ways of braiding your hair, like regular 3-stranded braid, 5-stranded braid, rope braids, infinity braids, etc., and then knowing a few methods of putting that braid up, cinnamon bun, Nautilus bun, Chinese bun, Elling woman bun, you name it, you get a lot of combination opportunities for that, and you don't really need a lot of variations after that. For instance, putting your hair up in 2 buns as opposed to 1, of course, looks wildly different. And also there's a big difference on if you stack the buns on top of each other or next to each other. Like, yeah, you make 3 buns, 4 buns, however many you want. Now, that aside, there is one single updo that I feel I need to get into details about when it comes to the variations, and that is the king of stability, the Nautilus Bun. It's my workhorse bun. It's the stability this bun offers is just completely unrivaled. It's just awesome. The problem is that the Nautilus Bun has a sort of a Goldilocks zone. Well, to be honest, like most updos do. They have a Goldilocks zones where the updo works. If your hair is too short for it, then you don't have enough length to anchor the updo into place. But if your hair gets too long for it, then it starts slipping, falling out, it gets too heavy for the tool you use to hold it up, you lose the stability again. And for the Nautilus Bun, I think it started working for me at around waist length for the braided version, and it has just been awesome for me. But when I hit knee length, it started losing the stability again. The Nautilus Bun sort of has 2 parts. There's the outer loop that you to some degree use to anchor the bun itself into place with, and then it has the inner loop, what is inside the outer loop. And if you get too much length, then the inner part gets too big compared to the outer part, and the inner part will push on your hair tool, it will push on the outer loop, and it will start to be asymmetrical, unbalanced, and it will sort of start to fall apart for you again. Since the Nautilus is such a favorite updo for me, I wanted to go into a little bit of detail with this one and extend 3 tips and 2 variations for it. And the first tip that some of you might already have spotted is that I'm wearing a 5-stranded braid instead of a regular 3-stranded braid. Now, the reason for this is I think that it's the length of my hair that makes a problem for the Nautilus Bun. And if you do a braid with more strands than a regular 3, you actually end up shortening your hair. And the reason is, the wider your braid is, the further the hair has to travel to complete the braiding motion. It's actually the same if you have very thick hair as opposed to very thin hair. Your hair has to travel further to complete the braid than if you just do it like this. And you can sort of artificially create a wider braid by making more strands, like a 5-stranded braid like I have here, or fishtail, 7-stranded, 4-stranded, whatever you want to do. Just go with more strands so your braid gets shorter and you have less of the inner part of the bun. The second tip that I will show when I turn around in a moment is to make either a Dutch or French braid. This doesn't actually make your hair shorter, but it makes your hair thin out faster, like you can see here. Because you take, instead of starting the braid like this, then you start it up here, which means that you lift the upper layers of your hair and you run out of the upper layers faster. So the bottom of your braid is just only like the lower part of your scalp hair, which means that the braid gets thinner, which means you have less inner coil in the Nautilus Bun. The third tip is to use a thinner tool. Now, I brought 2 hair forks here. One is a very beautiful wooden hair fork. As you can see, it's pretty thin. And the other one is a metal hair fork made by Ron Quattro. And it's pretty obvious how big of a difference is in thickness here. And by using the thinnest tool you have, you take up less room in the inner part of the bun, which means, well, it gets smaller compared to the outer layer, the outer coil, and you get less push in the inner parts. It takes up less room, so your chances of getting the Nautilus to work becomes better. And now on to the variations. Start with your hair in a braid. Form a loop around your hand with the first part of your braid. Wrap the braid around the base once. Insert your hair tool on top of the outer loop, but underneath the inner parts of the bun. Now take the remaining length of the braid and wrap it around the bun base, like for cinnamon bun, and tuck the end in. Start with your hair in a braid. Form a loop around your hand with the first part of your braid. Form a second loop around your hand. And keep bringing the rest of the braid around the braid base. I find it really difficult to keep the 2 outer loops separated from the inner parts. Give the outer loops a little wiggle to keep them nice and flat against your head. Then insert your hair tool on top of the 2 outer loops, but underneath the inner parts of the bun. And here I'm trying to show how there are 2 outer loops, but it's not that easy to see.